Hello.
How we doing?
Just us two.
I think we gotta turn that back on.
Oh.
That's the
Alerts and stuff?
we probably turned it off because Mike did 50 freaking things.
Probably.
Can you turn my vocal up, please?
Yes.
Hello, hello. How we doing, gang? How's the day? My mic is way away too. Hello? How's everybody doing? It's Friday, for crying out loud.
Finally. Oh my gosh. This has been such a long week.
It has felt like a very long
it's been
week.
Good, but so much going on.
Yeah.
And
year end is always rough.
Sometimes so much going on makes it go by fast, and other times you're like exhausted.
Well, there's so much going on that you can't get to it all, and you feel like you haven't finished anything. That's this week.
Yes, I know. I also look like, okay, wait, what have I done this week?
Yeah.
I feel like I've done a million things, but
my to-do list is only longer. It's been a long year, Sugar Rush. And it's only getting longer in the final stretch, too. That's the shame of it all, right?
We're almost done, right? But
it's been 3 weeks since last Friday. Yeah, it feels like it.
Feels like it.
I don't have very many weeks where I wish it was the weekend. I just don't, right? And this week, I've wished it was the weekend.
Me too. Yeah, every morning I'm like, is it Saturday yet?
Can we sleep in? Is it Saturday?
Can I get that extra 30 minutes? Because that's about all we get from the dog. Unless we wear her out.
Chronic Toast says everyone who pushed so hard for things at work suddenly disappeared. You can't get any of it done now. That's also the problem at the end of the year, right? It's crazy. Colonel, what's going on?
Got the darn flu. Chris
What?
Cosme, that's a bummer.
Who got the darn flu? Chris!
Shake it off before next week. All the holiday things. Gotta have energy for those. Or not. And you can use it as an excuse to get out of things. That's up to you.
Wad, your TV died. Did it just like do the bonk and not start? That sucks. Gates of Paint, what's going on? Hootski! Shake it off like that Taylor Swift song.
Right.
You can do it.
You can do it.
The flu?
Yeah.
Wear a sequin dress and go dance in the snow. That'll fix you. Or whatever the hell the dress is that she wears. It has a name I saw.
She does have some sequins. Quite a lot of sequins.
Mortal Kombat says we've been in a change freeze for a month and no one here was here this week. I painted all week while monitoring email. Okay, now I'm jealous of that. Yeah, Panic Bob says Wad's TV was jealous of the new computer.
TV gave up, saw the new computer, like, I can't compete. I'm done.
The TV's like, I can't ever look that good.
We had a good run.
I'm finished.
Time is up.
I'm just finished. Done. Over. Well, you know what we ought to do? We ought to get rid of this. And,
Don't get rid of it. There isn't one going.
Well, I don't want to paint on it anymore because we gave that away.
Right.
Right?
Okay. That's what you meant by get rid of it.
Yeah, so I mean get rid, not get rid, like chunk it.
Yeah.
Get rid and like get a new piece.
Get a new one. Yeah. If you missed it yesterday, you missed a lot. We had a fantastic holiday stream yesterday. Gave away a whole bunch of stuff.
Tons.
Jason got a little crazy at the end. Gave away some extra stuff that we weren't planning on it. Maybe he was planning on it, but I wasn't.
Read it and weep, chat. This doesn't ever happen.
It doesn't have any words on it.
It does. You just have to be a cool kid. Oh.
Jason just said I'm not cool.
Well, I can't see anything on it either, so. I bought the cool kid paper. They said if you're cool, you can read it. I can't see anything on it. Ta-da! Look at that. What? We have a palette cam? Who knew? That never gets the light of day.
Brush liquor. Oh, I'm like paint liquor. Brush liquor with a raid.
Brush liquor?
Welcome, raiders.
What is going on?
Time for brush licking. We don't do that here.
We don't do that here. Don't eat the paint. Don't eat the paint. Turn the chair cam on.
I'm trying. It doesn't work.
Uh-oh.
I was just going to do that.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I think because your palette cam is on.
Oh, palette cam doesn't have it. Uh-oh. Gobble it down. No!
Nope. Nope.
Got two kinds of wet in my pants.
Did we sponsor your charity event? Awesome. Hopefully it's going well.
Somebody
Snort
likes
pigments and drink medium. This person's insane and needs an intervention. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Monument Hobby Stream. My name's Jason. That over there is Jen.
Hi. You can become one with the paint, metaphorically, but don't
Let's not do that.
actually
Seriously.
become one with the paint.
Jen's the coolest, but I definitely have my moments. What?
Like yesterday when you gave away some good stuff.
Question up top there.
Oh,
From Q Lanu says, just curious, when do you leave well enough alone and say a piece is done? The piece you're currently working on looks phenomenal, but yet you are still touching it up. That's a great question because as artists, it's one of the toughest to answer, right? I think a piece is done when you're tired of it. And even then, I think a lot of us probably say, oh, I should go back to that. And there's always
Brush Licker,
something more I could do.
thank you for the raid.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you bringing
7
all
hours,
these over
Brush
here.
Licker.
Yeah, you've earned some rest. Go get some rest.
7
feet up.
hours.
Put your brush down.
Monument
Yeah.
Hobbies has never said drink the paint. Drinking is just eating, but using fewer teeth.
That's right. Same thing.
Right. So, I mean, I could take almost any model that we've done, right? And find things if I stare at it long enough that I'm like, oh, you know what I could do is I could go back and fix X, Y, and Z. And so done is just a state of mind when you're like, I gotta stop messing with this. But everybody has a different stage. Some people are really good at just setting the boundary for themselves from the get-go and saying, all right, I got this one last thing to do and I'm going to do it and I'm done. And they put it down and don't ever look at it in an incomplete state again. To them, it's always just finished. This one is going to turn into a full diorama. This is Percival Chevalier V, first of his name, Destroyer of Ankles. And is in severe need of anger management classes.
Even though he looks adorable.
He is the most adorable killer, right?
That's how he gets you.
But we're gonna do a bar fight scene, or the aftermath of a bar fight scene that'll be like a wood corner of a tavern. Is how I will build the plinth, and so I'm almost at the point where that's what's left to do, right? Is build the plinth and then paint the rest of it once the plinth is done. So we probably won't do a whole lot on him today. I'm at a point where I can say, yeah, it's probably time to do some stopping. And then wait for me to get the rest of the scene built and finish it around the scene. Because I might want to do like a fireplace in the wall that does firelight back on these guys or something. I don't know. But yeah, there's still a lot to do. I still need to do some highlighting on the flesh. The flesh is just a couple of basic layers of skin tone on these guys. I went back and glazed a little bit of green brown into the armor, so you can see on the steel armor I get a little bit of a yellowy brownish glow on the bottom side, which is the reflection of the pile of bodies and stuff around him. So doing all of that is kind of the end game. The way my process goes is I start from a black miniature, and then I build up through dark tones to lighter tones to highlights. And then when I'm done, I go back and work back those balances between contrast, bright and dark, and then put other hues into it to make it look more or less realistic, depending on what I'm going for. So there's a lot of that would still need to be done here. I'm not ever satisfied if like green leather booties are just green. I want to add some dirt and environment onto them, things like that. So that stuff takes the longest, right? We always joke, I guess, about how the least amount of paint that you put on the model takes the longest amount of time to do, because those final details are not a lot of paint, and yet they take forever.
Who said, yeah, I definitely struggle with that when I buy a new board game and have a batch to paint, but I obsess and spend way too much time on a single figure.
You and me both. I am bad at armies. It's why you don't ever see me finish armies, really, because I estimate the amount of time it's going to be, or underestimate the amount of time it'll take to finish, and make look what I have in my head as a vision for this cool army on the table, right? It's always tough. I do not envy us as painters. I'm very jealous of the painters that can get in there and do tremendous amounts of work. Is it this one? Does that still work? No. Is it this one? No. Do I have one for this? I don't have one for palette. Rah. So it's tough because some people can just knuckle down and get the stuff done. They're just like, yep, finished. And I'm like, I hate you.
Spatsnat said, done is when you set it down and forget where you put it.
Oh, yes, I will give you that. That sounds very good. I can use that.
Colonel, I don't give any new ideas about the paint. I've always very firmly said, don't eat the paint.
Nope. We do not give mixed messages.
So that's the thing to follow.
At Monument Hobbies, eat the paint is always preceded by the word don't.
Don't eat the paint.
Now, people may try to clip us saying eat the paint, but we never just say eat the paint. See what I did there?
No, I'm sorry, I'm reading. You know I can't do two things at the same time. Heard the phrase, we are time positive people. We always think we'll have more time than we do, from Squidmar. Oh, yeah. We always think we'll have more time than we do. That's, yes. Mellish, right? Sorry. Hi from Arizona. I'm having a hard time with your name because I don't speak German. Jason does a little. But thank you for saying hi from Germany.
Hello.
Said, I love that you talk so much and explain stuff.
Welcome.
We do. That's our
we do talk a lot.
Our main goal here is to answer questions, help people.
The whole reason I come on stream is that you're the only
Melly
people
I
in the
can
world
handle.
that enjoy me talking so much. Everybody else hates me talking so much.
Shriped? Is that closer? Now that I see that it's separate, maybe it's a little easier. Have we officially replaced Baby J with Palcam? He's on vacation. He's actually going to be taking vacation and leaving the state of Arizona. He's going to visit family and friends and do all the things, and he is gone.
Yep.
Gone.
Baby J will be back on January 6th.
Yep. Just for the holidays. He'll be back after the holidays. Colonel said, what I struggle with, Jason, is coming up with the color schemes for my own armies. Do you have a way to determine color schemes, or do you just get inspired by real life?
This is a great question, and it's asked a lot of me. And a lot of times I'll start an army and I'll say, you know what? Oh, well, sometimes let's take like Space Marines, right? We all know Space Marines in Warhammer 40K. And I'll be like, I really want to do Blood Angels. Well, that kind of really nails me down to like, I'm going to do red and black, right? And so I might be, sometimes I'm inspired by the idea of, I want to paint a red army. And so I think, well, what's red? Well, Blood Angels. And so I'll like come up with Blood Angels. And then coming up with a scheme to paint Blood Angels will always, you know, is the fun part. And I'll typically do a test model. This was our test model was the Terminator, wasn't it? Oh, ist.
Millie, that's awesome. I love that. That's so fun. Striped is German for typing. It basically means Melly types. I am a secretary. Thought it's funny. I watch mainly English streams and regret that I chose that nickname. Don't regret it. Challenge us to learn something new.
I was going to say.
I learned something new from you today. Thank you.
Was it Shriped, like SCHREI?
BT.
BT?
Yeah.
Shriped.
Yeah.
I would have known that.
Jason took German.
I was just over here. I always come over here and look at my models and go, Voas das.
Yes,
Yeah. Like, so we did this guy, right, as kind of the test model for my color scheme of what I wanted to do with my Blood Angels. And, we did this guy on stream and I had a blast, and a lot of times for me, if it's I have a concept or a place I want to start, I don't mind taking a model. I'll typically do something that's a good looking model, not just a trooper, something that has a little bit more to it so I can get a little bit more detail and a little bit more character done on it. I might not take like Sanguinius or the Lion and paint them first, but I'll paint a Terminator like this, right? And it got enough doodads to make it interesting. And I'll paint this so that I get a feel for how I want to paint the army. A lot of times I'll spend more time on the first model of an army or a unit or whatever it is I'm painting if there's multiples. I'll spend a lot more time on the first one finding my way through my colors because I might do the red in 6 layers of color and realize that it really could have been done in 3. So to speed it up, when I do it, you'll notice that I wanted brighter red after I did the Terminator. He was a little too dark. and so I wanted a little bit brighter red. So when I did the troopers and got the way of painting it down pat and a little bit more unified, it's a little bit brighter, right? So this guy won't fit as well in the army anymore, but he'll just be, a veteran or something. It'll work, right? And then I get it down to this, and this is repeatable, and I can do a whole army like this. Snicker, like that'll ever happen. But yeah, and so there's times like that, and I just kind of feel around the model, and I'll be like, okay, well, I did this gold on him with more orangish, and it felt too warm. It felt a little bit too dark and had too much reddishness in it, which the armor already has the red. So on the rest of the armor, I switched over to the dark yellow green as the base. So now I've got green as an offset on the gold, and it pulls the gold away from the red really well. So there's a lot of learning that I'll do. I basically head into every model thinking that it can change. I don't lock myself into a color scheme. I just kind of play around with it until it feels good. I say a lot that the model chooses what it wants to be. And that's really just a statement of me making the decisions of what I like and don't like as I put more color on the model. And I would love to be able to just kind of inject that feeling into more of miniature painters, because not more miniature painters come from the want of gaming than they come from the world of art. And as an artist for decades and decades, I've tinkered with everything from canvases to metal to clay, you name it. One thing I've learned is that you have to start a project with a kind of emotional detachment, meaning that I want the emotion to be tied to the end. I don't want to suffer through all the emotion of the process of doing it, because that starts causing you pain along the way of, I messed that up. It's like, it doesn't matter, you can fix it. It's making sure you reach your goal. So keeping your eye on the ball for the goal that you want to reach, and then being able to change the things you choose along the path to get there is the biggest key. And for everybody, that might mean something different. I know a lot of people who paint who are more focused on, they set all their colors out on the table. These are the colors I'm using, and that's fine. Play around with it till it feels good. That'll put hair on your palms.
All right, we got a bunch of questions, so I'm going to go back and hopefully be able to catch all of them.
If we ever miss one of your questions, feel free to ask it again. Type
it again. It doesn't bother us. Hopefully it's not super inconvenient for you to type it again. Let me go back. Look, said, if no eat, why put them in slurp tubes?
Slurp tubes. Looks like 5-hour energy.
Big Boss K-Man wants to know which NY hardcore band shirt is Jason wearing today.
I am not. I'm wearing a Monument shirt today.
Monument shirt today. Mm-hmm.
I wore my Reign Supreme shirt at the Christmas party, though, and we have pictures.
Jordan was out of PTO in October, though. Bud said the Pro adhesive is great. I noticed after priming that a glob got away from me and filled in some details. Any way to dissolve it, or do I just live with it?
There is... they make a product that will dissolve, but it also tends to dissolve plastic, so I don't know that I would recommend it on a plastic or resin model. It might be better to try to pick it out with like the knife blade or an edge of a file or something. That's dangerous, but that might be your best bet.
Panic Bomb said Jordan being on vacation is a likely story, and then it's probably a cover for a PoE2 bender with no distractions.
That could also be true. He's just not answering the phone, and he parked his car down the block. I'm not here. My car's not here, so I must not be here.
Tech Elf is listening while driving to Kansas from North Dakota. Beginning a holiday journey, Tech Elf.
That's not even a long drive.
Travels.
I've made that drive lots of times.
People be crazy out there, so drive safely.
People gonna peep.
People gonna peep.
People especially seem to peep on the highway.
Yep. They definitely peep in their cars.
Or on the roadways.
Dot Moon Rune said, I struggle with painting fast. Yesterday I painted a mini anti-diorama in a day, but it took well over 12 hours. I mean, that doesn't seem unreasonable.
You know what? I will tell you this. Don't worry about time.
Yeah.
We live in a world where you will find people who will focus on making videos for YouTube because they get the clicks that say, paint this amazing army in 15 minutes. And then you walk away feeling like, wow, I'm an underachiever. I can't paint like that in 15 minutes. Well, you know, it takes a lot of practice to be able to put the tools in your toolbox to use in a speedy method and get good quality. There's a thing we've always said in the world of metalwork and auto body and things like that, right? And all the trades, really. You have fast, good, and cheap. Choose two. You know, it can't be fast and cheap, but it can be fast and good, but that's going to cost you a lot because I've spent years perfecting my craft. And you're somewhere along that journey of what you can offer. And speed has never been my thing. My name on the internet is Slow Fuse, for crying out loud. I'm one of the slowest painters on the planet, but I'll get it done. Right?
That Moon also said, I love your sable brushes. They hold up to oil paints very well.
Oh, they do, yes. Awesome.
Melly, we're here for like another hour and a half. So if your call ends within that time frame, we'd love to have you back. If not, we'll see you next time. We're back on Monday. Zazen, hello. Chuck
Go on,
the
Zazen.
Meat Man said, look at those awesome little war dollies.
These are my battle Barbies. Thank you very much.
Zazen, you missed a giveaway if you weren't here yesterday. We haven't done any today. We've only been here for 26 minutes. Less than that, probably 20 minutes.
We don't have any giveaways today. That was all yesterday.
Giveaways. We gave everything away yesterday. We have nothing left. Place is empty now.
No more stock.
Nope.
We don't have to pay the tax man for it, though, but that's good. The IRS comes knocking. We have some questions about your return. How come you hold no inventory? Well, because chat made us give it all away.
Rand, we'll get to that one in just a second. That's a longer story. I just want to make sure that there are not any other painting questions waiting. Colonel said, thank you for taking the time to answer. I struggle with it a lot, but once I find a scheme that I like, I can paint an army quickly. I work with computers, but I've always had artistic tendencies.
So I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. I think that our art form deserves the time up front to not be specific, so that once you find that specificity, because you play around with color, you play around on a model, and then you get something that makes you have your aha moment, that's when you dig in and get specific. Now you repeat it. Now it becomes mechanical. But that initial journey of finding out what you want the army to look like, I think should be playful. I really do. There's no other way to say it. I think if you will enjoy the outcome better if it's not forced upon you, either by you or by somebody else telling you that Imperial Fists have to be this color of yellow. You know, paint them how you like. Find your way with that color. You know, I think you'll have a lot better results because it's a rule of cool thing. If you enjoy the process, the outcome will be so much better than if it's either forced on you or defined for you, unless that's how you are. I know a lot of painters, like I said, who are very defined. They want to paint it exactly like the canon or the box art is supposed to be. Jordan, right? Jordan's a fantastic painter, but Jordan is a box art painter. Jordan loves the color of the thing like it was supposed to be and how it's defined, and is less interested in just like figuring out a color scheme.
Hey, Mo. Oh.
Hi, love you guys.
Look, it's a Jordan.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
That was like a speak and he appears.
Suggested,
I heard my
Jordan,
name.
it's been suggested that perhaps you're not actually going on vacation, but rather taking time for PoE2 without disruptions.
I'm literally booking an Uber to the airport right now. Like I have my phone out. I'm doing that right this
I
second.
told him what you were doing is that you were PoEing, you were no life in PoE, and you were going to park your car around the block so that you could say, well, my car's not in the parking lot, so I must not be there. Caught him.
Have a great
I
trip,
might
Jordan.
buy a laptop while I'm gone and might play with my buddy.
Caught
You
him.
never know. Happy New Year, you guys. Merry Christmas.
Have a great holiday.
Christmas.
Love
Best
you
to you
both.
and your family,
Take
man.
care of yourselves.
See ya in the new year.
Oh, that's crazy to say.
I know. Sorry.
Have a great one,
Sorry,
man.
not sorry. Bye, chat.
They're all saying
Love you
bye.
too.
Safe travels. Yep.
See, chat, we didn't drive him off to the middle of the desert.
I heard that.
What?
We didn't, though.
True.
Oh, I don't like this chat right here. You keep changing it and taking my. All right. What else? What else? Chuck and Jade are both here.
What's going on, Chuck and Jade?
Four Pig Bacon said, I paint to relax. I don't care how long it takes.
Amen to that one. It is such a good therapy. It can be so cathartic and just a good way to go away from the world if you need it. I'm a fan. There are times where I haven't done it lately. There's times where I just kind of disappear into the studio on a Saturday and paint. We've been so busy weekdays that I don't want to be here on the weekends right now, but it always
I've been
is
here
a fun.
for like the past 3 weekends.
Jen's been up here working, making soap, doing the thing.
Source, thank you for the sub. Colonel said, my new name for my minis is Battle Barbies. Thank you, Jason.
Oh, yeah. You can have that one for free. I paint Battle Barbies. It's like, in the world of business, people are always like asking Jen and I, so what do you guys do? And our generic answer is we make art supplies.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing to say. Because most people are like, oh, cool. And then they'll let it go.
But every now and then you say, I paint little men.
Yeah.
And then that's a down the rabbit hole conversation. They're like, excuse me, what?
All right. From Q Lanu, question: as an artist and a manufacturer, what is your take on water versus medium for glazing?
So we make both. Well, we don't make water, but we use both, and we make a medium. We make a glaze and wash medium, and the reason why we do that, even though I, as a painter, only use water, or I use the medium very sparingly. And I use water most of the time. And the reason for that is just strictly a skill level and confidence level, right? I've been glazing for decades, and it just comes natural to me, and I know how acrylic paint, especially our acrylic paint, works under the dilution of water. So that's just easy and becomes my method. Now, as you're starting out glazing, one of the hardest things to do is to get used to how to control the consistency of your paint as you dilute it with water, because it becomes very, very liquid, right? You dilute with water, the thing becomes more watery, and more watery is usually bad on three-dimensional surfaces because the paint runs in ways you can't control, paint gets in places you don't want it, so on and so forth. So rather than start with all of that trouble and hassle as a painter, having a medium is a great way to learn glazing, because you're diluting the paint with a medium that keeps the paint at a thicker consistency, like our glaze wash medium. Keeps paint thicker like paint's supposed to be, right? So if you use this, you still get the dilution of opacity, so you can see through the paint more, which is what gives you the ability to glaze with it. But it feels like paint and moves more like paint, so that it's natural, it's recognizable, familiar to you. Because the feel of paint and the brush and how it is applied to the model is one of the biggest things that just takes experience to get used to, and you have to focus on it and understand as a paint dilutes its viscosity, which is how thick it is. If you're diluting for viscosity from a thick paint to a thin paint, that level of control is greater and different than the opacity one. And the opacity one is very beneficial to learn early on. So you use a glaze and wash medium or something like this in order to help you learn that technique, because then you get better quality miniatures, better quality blends, all of that stuff earlier. And then you start learning dilution for viscosity and what that can do for you.
Would this be also, do you think, the answer to this question from Nebuchadnezzar? Any advice on paint consistency? I struggle with getting the right viscosity to get paint on the model efficiently and not obscure details.
Oh, yeah. Again, my method, we have a video up on YouTube, and I can show you here today as well. My method is really just water on the brush is the only dilution you need to add. I would get away from the thought that you want to be adding water to your paint. You want to have water on the brush, not in the paint. And it doesn't matter what thinner you're using. If you're using some other type of acrylic thinner, that's fine too. But rather than add it to the paint, use the brush with the thinner on it and let that.
Source, I don't think he's at all saying that medium is for noobs.
What's that?
Source said TLDR, medium is for noobs.
Oh no. I once you get comfortable with the style, you keep using the medium. Jordan uses the medium all the time. Definitely not noob. So no, it's just a better place to start than trying to teach someone how to glaze with water. 100% why we made the glaze wash medium, right? So that every color in our lineup could be used as a more translucent speed paint style paint if you need to.
No, he's fake calling an Uber, so he has an excuse for his car still being at home.
You know it. No, he got the Uber. He drove his car around the block and parked it, and then called an Uber to take him back home. That's what he did. But as far as the viscosity goes, like I said, just use, all I'm doing is keeping my brush damp, and I can change the viscosity based on that. Just here real quick, I'll show you. Let's go back to...
British Panda, hello.
I gotta steal your mouse again. Turn this off, bang. Go back there. And then if I go back to where the palette is in view, if I, let me get a little bit bigger brush and I'll do this on my hand. So, I've just got a brush. This brush is dry, right? You can see it's completely dry, sitting on my desk, right? I'll get it wet. This is completely wet. I haven't wiped it on my paper towel at all. This is however much water came out of the cup on the brush. So it's a lot, right? That's leaving large amounts of water wherever I touch it, right? So that's going to dilute the paint. So I can use that to come over to my droplet, and rather than mixing it in, which is bad, just use it to touch the edge of the paint and pull some of that pigment over here. Now I have this very thin paint because the pigment is now mixing with all the water that's on my brush. The water isn't going into the paint's going into the water, right? So the paint over here, super, super thin. This immediately gives me a glazing ability, right? I can come and now I can glaze brown over the snake's green tongue on my tattoo, right? And it's going to change the color of the green, but the green is still going to influence that brown. Does that make sense? So that's a technique, and that's controlling the viscosity. But now if I was going to do that on a model, right, with that thin of a paint, you'll notice my thumb palette here always has paint on it, because what I do is I come over here and I get rid of most of that moisture, right? Because the lower viscosity the paint is on your brush, the more watery it is, the more it's going to leave puddles when you touch the model. But now it's still thin, so I can see through it. So now if I wanted to glaze it on this skirt, I can do that, but I'm not going to get big puddles of water. I'm just going to get nice brush strokes of color. Now there's not a whole lot of color because by thinning viscosity, I'm also thinning opacity. But now I could kind of tint this thing a little bit brown. But I don't have to worry about fiddling around with a big droplet of water and pushing it around. It just is going to do well, and it gives me kind of a dirty overlay. This would be what I would do if I was going to try to make cloth look dirty. See how my black primer, you see on the front versus the back, now I have that kind of sheen of dirt color, right? So I would do something like that for effects. Now, if you do just go and take a dry brush, or as close to dry, no dampness on it, I'll wipe it on my paper towel a bunch, and I just go into the paint, then all of a sudden I have full opacity paint. And if I try to go paint with that, yes, I'm going to get good opacity out of it, but yeah, it might clog details. Our Pro Acryl won't, right? The paint that we manufacture won't clog details. It is lower viscosity, but has a lot of opacity to it. That's the magic of our paint. So it's hard to show you that here. I'm not going to clog any details with our paint, even if I take it right out of the bottle without any moisture on the brush like I just did. You still want a little bit of dampness so the paint will flow, but that's how you control it. It's always just the water on my brush. 100% of stuff that I do. You pick any model, right? It's all done exactly like I just showed you. You take Horace. This model was painted exactly, every brush stroke exactly the same, 100% with brush, just like I just showed you, right? So everything is done the same way, just varying the amount of water that's on my brush based on how much of the color I want to see that I'm painting and how much of the color it's going over do I want to see. If I want to make sure that the dark jadish color of the armor is showing, then the color I put over the top of it, I want a lot of water on my brush so that it allows the paint to be see-through. But I have to make sure that I take a lot of that off here first, so I don't just get a bunch of material that I'm pushing around and getting gloopy on my model. Does that make sense? The more you hang out here and watch us paint, the more you'll see it in action. And that's really when the lights start going off, I think. Or start going on. Light bulb off, on.
Yeah. Next question. Oh.
Okay. You can has.
Okay. The next question is from Derpstick. I have a question about matte varnish and metallics. If you hit metallics with matte, would you go back with the metallic color and reapply it to the area that's metal, like a sword?
It depends. The metallic will still have the metal flake. It won't have the same reflective quality after you hit it with a matte varnish, of course. So you might go back and do the edges with the metallic paint to get them to shine. But the face of the sword, I might not. I might go back and just kind of leave it as is. I don't varnish a lot of my models, to be honest with you, because our paint is made to be matte straight out of the bottle. So we don't have to deal with most of our colors. We have a few satin colors that are listed as such, but for the most part, our colors are very matte. And so I don't find myself varnishing even armies, that I paint. Like I won't varnish these guys when they're ready for tabletop because they'll be, none of these models the paint won't rub off of them. And so that way the metallic never gets dulled down. Right, but I still have everything else that I paint is fairly matte. So that's kind of the way I treat it. But yeah, if you like doing a matte varnish coat as a protective coat for your models, then I would just go back and take the metallic paint and do the edges, right? And maybe a little bit of highlighting to bring back some sheen.
Mel, you can absolutely ask questions, for sure.
You can also take a little bit of gloss varnish and thin it. So don't apply it right out of the bottle, but you could use like our gloss varnish, thin it down, and paint it over the metallic. It'll get rid of the matte finish, right? That's how I do like water effects. When you lay down resin water effects on a base or a diorama, it's always shiny, like super glossy because the resin's glossy. And then when you matte the model, the water turns matte and fogs up to where you can't see it. Like maybe you do a water effect and you want to see like a body under the water and the clear is what you're relying on. As soon as you matte varnish your model, the water will like completely turn frosted and you can't see through it and it'll freak you out. Put gloss varnish on it, you see right back through it. It's like magic. So you can do that on the metallics too. You can take a little bit of gloss varnish and just put them right back over the metallic areas if you want more shine. Super simple. Just be careful because you might not want to make it super gloss. That's why I say thin the gloss varnish down a bit.
Okay, I think that answers all of the like technique type questions. And then we had a question from, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but the gist of the question was, how did Slow Fuse Gaming become Monument Hobbies?
Oh.
And I had said, that's kind of a little bit of a longer explanation. We'll come back to it. So we're back to it. And there you go.
Slow Fuse Gaming was my stream name when I streamed video games. And I had streamed PvP content for years and was getting tired of video games and streaming because I felt like I was locked into the games I'd been playing for so long. That's what what the people that watched me knew me for. I wasn't having fun with the games after years and years. So I just it didn't work out for me to do more variety streaming. My viewership didn't really want me to go play something else. And I just hated it. So, in the course of Jen and I discussing what was going on, we switched over to painting. That was awesome. And then as we started making products, we realized very quickly that like Slow Fuse Gaming isn't really indicative of the products we make. We make very high-end, very value-oriented products, many of them by hand, and especially at that point in time. And so as we went through the process, we wanted to find we'd already started thinking about a way to transition away from Slow Fuse Gaming as the brand and come up with something else. I was the snail, the bomb snail. Jen was the unicorn. We love the graphics, so we wanted to keep kind of a loose style. We wanted to incorporate the bomb snail and the unicorn into everything that we did. And we just started playing around. At the same time, we were coming out with a paint line, or we were creating the paint line. And so coming up with a name for the paint line, kind of rebranding the whole thing based around the paint. We already had brushes that were Slow Fuse Gaming. If you've been around for a long time, we had brushes that on the handle were printed Slow Fuse Gaming. The original Go Bag had the SFG logo on it with the bomb. So we had a lot of products that had the Slow Fuse Gaming moniker on them. And so we were thinking about it in terms of a whole corporate rebrand. What would you do? And now, luckily, our company was still small enough, and our following has always been very voracious. You know, thank you, like guys and gals like you guys in chat have always stuck with us no matter what. So we weren't really worried about that. We just wanted to make sure we chose a name that allowed us to go the distance, that we wouldn't have to be having that same conversation again later. We had some partners at the time that were helping us with the paint line and distribution, and so we talked, and it kind of just all came around through a bunch of wordplay, a lot of choices. I think everybody threw a bunch of words together, and they all just kind of filtered down. And we really like Monolith. I'm a big 2001: A Space Odyssey, Arthur C. Clarke fan, so Monolith made sense. Of course, that's a fairly played out trope in the world of games and videos and things like that. And so there was already a Monolith Games and there wasn't a Monolith Hobbies, but Monolith Games. And we were worried about trademark infringement because we would have wanted to use the big 2001, Monolith. And we had some graphics, and then we just put another dimension to that and turned it into Monument. And that's really it. It's that easy, right? I think it's fair. I don't think there was anything more than that, really. Yeah, we really liked it because the Monument idea was that it was just a sturdy foundation and a thing, when you think about it, that for the hobby. And that's really what we came up with. There's not a whole lot more to read into it than that.
But we switched over from just selling a random selection of hobby products to completely our own products.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, initially Slow Fuse Gaming was a storefront,
Yep.
a digital storefront that sold other paint brands and other products along with our own, and then grew into where the timing was great because we got rid of all the third-party product stuff. I forgot about that. Yeah.
We were making special white. But launched the paint line. Relax Studio said, Jason, do you go up in value by glazing toward the highlights, or do you apply layers and glaze between colors?
Depends on the thing that I'm trying to accomplish. I do both. My painting style goes from, as you can see on all these models, I go from black to highlights, right? I call it the Da Vinci school of thought because Leonardo da Vinci always stated that without light, there is no color, and he's right. If you turn the lights off, there is no color. You have to turn the light on. So I've always thought of a model as being in complete darkness with black primer or a very dark primer. And as the lights kind of fade on like a very dramatic scene, then more color is pulled out of the shadows towards the direction of the light. And in my brain, that just worked when I was told that. And so that's how I paint. And so I'll pull out of darkness into light. And then it means that I will spend a lot of time later in the highlights, perhaps glazing my highlights. But then I will go back and glaze in between colors too as I balance it all out. So it's all just a technique that's good to have all of that. There's not a if you glaze, you should choose one of these paths. It's like if you blend, you should choose one. You should have all of those tools known and available to you to pick the right one at the right time. There's times where you can't wet blend, right? You're not going to wet blend like up in an armpit. So you need to know how to layer blend, right? And there's times where, you're not going to dry brush, but times that it works really, really well. So having all of those tools available to you is super important.
Ugg said, late to the stream because I accidentally clicked a Blacktail Studio video and spent the last 45 minutes watching a guy make a $35,000 tabletop.
Oh my God.
Stuff.
That's the kind of rabbit hole I go down at night. That's how I go to bed. I click on a thing and I'm like, ooh. Or I watch a video game video for a video game I'll never play, but because the guy's having fun and is interesting to listen to, I'll watch this whole journey he's on, and then at the end of it, I'm like, well, I was wasted. But I'm ready for bed, so I got what I needed.
So do you, because like when I go in to say goodnight to you, you're usually playing a game.
I will usually play, my thing lately, I think about it in terms of the clock. I will usually play till about 11 or 11:15, and then it's my cutoff point. and maybe I'll go get a couple spoonfuls of ice cream, and that's where I tune my night out by going, and it's like a cookie or ice cream and a journey into video rabbit hole on YouTube.
Where you just
Lately it's been video games of the games I'm playing,
Yeah.
so I can learn builds or whatever, and but by doing that, I always, after I watch a little bit of a video and decide whether or not I can tolerate the person doing the video, I'll scroll down into the you may also likes, and those sometimes take you off on weird tangents.
So you don't just like play until you're like, okay, I'm done for the day, turn it off and go to bed.
No, because
Like,
the kinds of
you
games
gotta
that I'm playing, I'll
wind
get
down.
really frustrated because I'll just keep dying,
Let's see. Colonel said, Jason, later today I'm using Pro Curl Black Wash. So for best use, do you recommend 50-50 wash to medium or water? 50-50 wash to medium or water.
What was it being used for?
I don't know. Pro Curl Black Wash.
Later today, what are you using it for? Because you can use it right out of the bottle if you want lots of tinting or shading, right? I tend to mix it 50-50 with water because I very rarely use a wash for major impact. I use it for lighter shading because most of my shading, of course, is brought on because my model starts off, black in the shadows. So I paint away from the black and I don't need it to do a lot of shading. Like I wouldn't need a lot of wash on this silver, right? Although we already washed it, so that's kind of not the right thing to say, right? But all of the wash that I did on here was mixed 50-50 with water so that it just gives a light shade to it.
Face reminds me of the girl who ate the blueberry and that turned into a blueberry.
Yeah, on
Willy Wonka.
On Willy Wonka, yeah.
Black
So I'm
is-
going to, for her
black is
skin, I'm
Wonka.
going to start with black brown, and I'm going to move into dark flesh.
Dudogo said, I'm pretty new to mini painting. Do you have any tips for getting your brush into nooks and crannies? Like, for example, the other side of the rifle on the mini you were working on is holding. I think maybe one that you were showing.
The other side of the rifle, like you mean like if it was somebody holding it in front of their chest like this?
Oh, the other side of it,
Like this
in the middle
side?
there, probably.
I'll be honest with you.
Like the one close to where it's close between his arms, closest to his body, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Back
the
there.
best part of starting off with black primer is I don't even worry about it. I will paint the top as far over as I can see and comfortably get my brush in there to paint using a method like this. Like on this guy, I'll pull the paint back out over the top so that it kind of goes away from the shadow. It'll be dark where I can't put the brush, and then it'll get lighter as I come across the top. Because then as you turn it this way, it just blends into a shadow like it would anyway. So I never worry about it. I mean, let's see if I can prove this. Let's see if I can find a model that has an unpainted gun in front. I gotta find something that is pretty closely held. Space Marines, you would think. Oh yeah, right. So Dark Angel, Horus Heresy, Space Marine, right? These are painted very quickly, right? But even on the quick paint job, I go to where it goes from the red bolter casing that I want, a little bit of shadow, and then on the back, it's just enough red to make sure that it gets where you can see it. But if you look up underneath, it's not even painted. Because who cares? Now, if you're painting for a display quality, you would paint all the nooks and crannies. And you would get a fine brush, right? Like I use a number 2 for everything I'm doing, but you would go down to like a number 1 or a 0 or something like that. Something that doesn't have a lot of belly to it. It's very thin so that you could get up in there and very comfortably get paint layered in where you want to without smacking it around on everything else. Or paint the gun first. We talk a lot about painting from the inside out. Mm-hmm. That means painting from the bits that are hard and further down in the model to get to, and then paint outward. So that if you painted that gun first, then you'd paint everything around it. And you would have less of a trouble with worrying about getting paint on something that, may have been, a little out of whack or too close or whatever.
Relax Studio said, do you have any tips on where to place your midtones and highlights? It's one of my main problems, determining the direction of light for different objects.
So this is a volumetrics question. This is one where you have to be able to pick where you want your highlight to go. And the way that I teach is the 10 and 2, right? So, you pick the money shot for your model. What's the money? So the red skull here is like this, right? So then when I say, okay, where do you want the light to come from? The easy is 10 or 2. On him, I picked 2, right? because it kind of just gives a dramatic effect of moving light towards his hand out, right? And so the head is brighter, and this whole side of the model would be brighter than this side, and it is, right? And it's that simple. So then I know once I've picked it, I just move all of my brush strokes go towards my light source. Because remember, a brush stroke is like like sweeping a broom. If you have a dirty floor that has like dusty dirt on it, not big chunks, but dusty dirt, and you sweep, what happens? Right? In your head, if you've ever swept a floor, you know what happens is that you sweep the broom and it leaves a slight trail of dust behind it. And then when you lift the broom, there's a big clump of dirt in front of where you had the broom. That's what your brush does with paint. As you start your brush stroke, there'll be a lot of dirt there, a lot of paint. You'll pull all of that paint along and it'll leave paint behind that slips through the bristles. And then when you stop and lift your brush, that's where all the pigment is. And the thinner you make your paint, the more aggressive that is. The less pigment gets left behind and the more piles up where you stop your brush. So if you're constantly having your brush strokes go from dark to light, like these highlights across Skull's chest, all of these started like this. I took my brighter colored paint, I started here and moved it here. Start here and move here. Here and move around here, right? Here and move down here. Here and move down here. So that I get that natural buildup because the brush stroke leaves less pigment here than it does here. And so you just keep doing that. Once you've picked where your light comes from, which is up here, right? Then now everything moves towards that light. All my brush strokes that go brighter go this way. All my brush strokes that go darker go this way. That make sense? That's really it.
Wad Tomato said Dusty Dirt was my rodeo name.
Dusty Dirt.
These are all great questions. Next, we have from Derpstick, what paint would you use to paint lips? If the Mini has lips, that is.
Lips?
Lips.
First, I start with a skin tone. So whatever skin base layer that I'm doing, like with this girl, I'll start with black brown. I won't avoid the lips with the black brown. And then generally I'll go up to a little bit pinker flesh tone and maybe a little bit of a magenta glaze on it. You don't have to spend a lot of time on lips. Unless it's a bigger bust or something that has more visibility in that area, then you may want to spend some time coming up with a little bit more of a purpley magenta color to give you the idea of, because lips are kind of like the inside skin of the mouth on the outside, almost. Depending on the person, your skin tone goes to the point where the ridge of the lip happens, and then as it curls into the mouth, that's where it's almost like the inside of your mouth, your gums. So you can think about painting gums with like a royal purple base and then a magenta over the top and then maybe a glaze of skin over that or something, right? It's up to you. But I typically do that. You have to be careful when painting lips to not make it look like hooker lipstick, right? Because some people will go and be like, red, and it's like, whoa, back off a little bit, buddy.
Mike, that makes my brain hurt. I'm going to just say yes. Yes is the answer. iGrain, hello. Source said, Monument Hobbies, does your metallic use aluminum or mica, and why?
Mica for the main colors and aluminum on the metallic medium. Why is a matter of what works best. Aluminum only comes in a handful of colors. You have to start anodizing it in order to get more colors, and that does not bode well for suspending it in an aqueous suspension. That's a lot of science talk for you. But that's the case. And so we will go with, you'll have to use pigment to turn it from silvery colors, right? And then the mica gives you the ability to use a lot of different color because the mica is colored already and won't ever fade. Has good light fastness to it, so it takes the place of having to add more pigment into it. You still will add pigment to get various shades of golds and whatever, but... You know.
So as in Veruca Salt was the spoiled girl. Violet was the gum girl who needed to chew the gum.
Veruca Salt was the
spoiled brat.
Yep.
Violet Beauregard was the girl who chewed the gum and got to the blueberry pie, and it made her turn into a blueberry.
I can answer 4 pig bacon's color in one.
Yeah.
4 pig bacon,
Plans
buy this.
have already come to fruition.
Buy this. It's in the Adepticon set.
Also available on its own. You don't have to buy the whole set, but it's a great set, so maybe you should.
The problem with all blacks is that if you get the more matte you make them, the more gray they become.
And that was for Pig Bacon asking if there were any plans for a true black, because the current one is a bit too gray. Our satin black is a good solution there. Fantastic. Thanks, answered my question. Awesome.
The crazy trim on any Chaos Army, but definitely Thousand Sons is nuts. I forgot to put the Dark Flesh out. I'll be mixing Dark Flesh into the Black Brown to get the first highlight layer for darker skin, because I want her to have a more African skin tone.
Super Bleeder said, loving the technique discussion. Great questions and excellent explanation. Jason
Yeah, a lot of times chat
Jason's
makes
a
it
good
easy.
teacher.
We don't even have to discover content. They just ask and create it on their own.
Question for me, X-Ran. Sure. Oh, no. Lord Commander. Him. Okay.
You're Lord Commander.
I'm Lady Commander.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, but maybe it is for me. Did you get my email yesterday? Was it about the prize? If so, yes, I did get all of them. As I said, we might not get those out until after the holiday. Just because, yeah, we're super busy, and we are now going to be down a bunch of people for vacation. We will get those out as soon as possible. Yes is how does. Bouquet. Have a good weekend, guys. Yeah. Oh, I don't like that. Veruca Salt was also a band, a fantastic band. I love them.
I was way older than I should have been when I realized that that was named after the girl in Willy Wonka.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I was a... Yep.
Willy Wonka and or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Which one's the original? I don't remember which the original movie is. The book is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
The book is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
The book is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think the movie, the original with Gene Wilder, is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate.
I think it is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah.
One of my all-time favorites.
Then I'll mix in a little bit of advanced flesh tone.
So I knew right away when I heard Veruca Salt. I'm like, oh my gosh. Getiv Narak Horn. No, I thought maybe it was backwards. Happy holidays, guys. Hopefully an easy question. I'm painting some Chaos Space Marines, and I'm trying to find an easy and effective way to paint skulls and bones. Any tips on a quick and dirty? Yes,
we have a short that was done not too long ago on our YouTube channel that does that very, very well. I can give you a couple of pointers on how to do skulls really quick, for sure. Give me a second to work through this skin.
Yes, Veruca Salt was the egg. I want the goose that lays the chocolate egg. Sarcastic Krampus said, do you have a vision of the maximum number of colors you will produce, or is it a fluid number? It's 96. Oops.
It is definitely 96. We refuse to make any more than 96. Pay no mind to the fact that we already have 127.
Zazin wants to know, what colors are the heavy body acrylics going to be? I think we've shown those.
I mean, I have them all in a box. We've got a pyro red, titanium white, a carbon black, a phthalo blue, a process blue, process cyan, process magenta, process yellow, white, black, nickel azo, the pyro red that I mentioned, the phthalo blue. I don't remember if we did phthalo green. Oh god, it's gonna lose. I'm gonna lose it if it's not sitting in front of me. I can go grab it at some point. 16 colors to start.
For Pig Bacon, what has the satin black, was looking for a matte black. said thanks. I will use the satin black more.
The okay, so so the thing with satin black is it's not really shiny. It's just not as matte as our other blacks, but that's how you get black to be blacker, as we consider it to be blacker.
The more matte it is, the more gray it looks.
Yeah. And up until the point where like that blackest black paint, or like our black primer, like our black primer is super matte and isn't super gray, but that's a ton of tooth. So that's not the way that you would really want a paint that you're painting for final look with. So the satin black is a way to do that. And then you can use like a matte varnish over the top of that and you'll be fine.
It's Bob Tart. Did you use royal purple as the base color?
Yeah.
Royal purple on the face?
Yeah, royal purple is the base for all the skin, regardless of color that I'm doing. I've used it the same way on all of these. So for this pale brute, with the more pale skin, I use the royal purple because it just gives more dimension to the shadows, as well as on the more lively flesh of some of the other models. It still just gives a really neat move into shadow with that purple, the under boob or the cleft of the butt cheeks and stuff like that. It just makes the models more interesting when you have a shadow that isn't just a skin tone, right? The skin, when you look at your own skin, you have a lot of purples and what appear to be greens. And, I call it the blood and fat under the skin. So I like yellowish greens, bluish purples, and like deep reds, rusty reds tend to give you a really great ability to add color and liveliness to flesh.
Deadbeat, we already are way past the 96. So 96 for now was what we said like a year ago. 127 does not count Wizard's Butt because that's not available for purchase. 127 colors available on our website. Zazin said, is heavy body best to add saturation?
Depending on your technique, it can be for sure. If you're looking to do a lot of glazing, then heavy-bodied acrylics are going to be the way that lead you to the promised land as far as keeping vibrancy of color in the piece that you're painting. The more that you dilute liquid acrylics, the less of a vibrancy of color you're going to retain. So that can be a real problem. I'm leaving the cool side of her face over here so you can see more of the purple, less of the browns, and then as we move over here, I'm adding a little bit more of the skin tone to it.
Awkwardish Panda said, I decided I'm gifting the starter set to my oldest. She's asking for a bunch of painting stuff for the holidays and her birthday in January. It'll help get her started on a better path early.
Awesome.
Love it.
You can see the minor changes I'm making in flesh tone for darker skin, but you still want to push to a fleshy skin tone. The highlights for dark skin will be basically the base colors for Caucasian skin. Think of it like that. A lot of people ask, how do you paint darker, like African skin tones, Middle Eastern skin tones, South American skin tones, things like that. And the reality is you just start darker and work up to a highlight that would be the base coat for Caucasian flesh.
10X is asking your favorite question. What's your favorite color to paint with? It's his favorite because he gets to change the answer every single time.
It's hard for me. This is one of the toughest things, right? Because I develop all our colors. So for me, it's I have 127 favorite colors.
Yeah.
And that's a cop-out, right? So I get it. We got asked not too long ago if I had my own signature set, what would it be? And that's always a fun one. Obviously, I use a lot of dark purple and or royal purple. I love Payne's gray. I love jade. I think my favorite always will and has to be bold titanium white, because bold titanium white is the reason we make paint.
Yep.
So we knocked it out of the park by making the world's best white hobby acrylic, and haven't looked back since. So it'll always and forever be the one that Jen and I owe all this to, I think. We made other products before we made paint, but we've been making brushes the longest.
Yeah. Brushes, brush soap, all before paint. Attacks Frost. We can ship most of our stuff to Germany. There are a few things that we don't ship internationally.
But you have PK Pro.
go to PK Pro. Check out their website. They are our main distributor in Europe, and they are located in Germany, and they're fantastic. So definitely check them out. Because the shipping from us is going to be ridiculous. And then there may also be import taxes and fees that are unexpected. So buy from PK Pro for sure.
100%.
Or here, I'll put up our store locator because there are other stores as well. They'll just be the most likely to have what you're looking for. No, that didn't work. Oh, this chat. Okay, there we go.
I haven't forgot the
no.
skull question. Don't worry.
Oh no, he said that he had to go. Where did it go? He said, "I gotta run. I'll check out the video."
Oh no.
Sorry. No, there's definitely not a shortage of bull titanium white. We have probably more of that than anything else. Igraine won the big prize. She lives in Germany. Oh, no, we'll just have them send it. They will send it for us. So it'll be super easy to get that over to her. Zazin, you got to tell them. Go to your store. If you've got a store that carries a wide variety of hobby products and you don't see Monument on their shelves, tell them to contact us. There was a question earlier, and then Zazin's current question just reminded me of this. There was a question earlier about, is there a reason why, and I'm not going to remember it, but it was something about when would you use synthetic or versus sable, or would you use, hold on, let me go find it, because it was a good question.
The real question is why I don't organize my paints more often, and why I keep knocking them around on my desk. That'd be a great question. And the answer would be like, do you want a job at Monument? Will you come organize my paints for me? Should have painted these eyes first because I'm going to mess my skin up painting these eyes. So I'm just going to do it the way I would normally do it and work backwards. So these are going to look horrible here at first, gang. I got so hyped to just dive into skin that I forgot that, oh yeah, her eyes are open.
Oh, here we go. It was from Kenneth the Red. Is there a certain time you would choose a synthetic brush over a sable? Jason only uses synthetics.
I only use synthetics. So I have, yeah, I use synthetics all the time because the snap is much better on a synthetic, right? It's going to pop back to straight much quicker than a sable will because it's a little stiffer. Now we're talking about, we're not talking about the difference between like a pillow and a rock, right? As far as like the difference in hardness or stiffness on a synthetic, but a synthetic will go back to straight without having the deformity that a sable will along the way. The sables, as they get more and more with paint, will kind of stay at a hook for a little bit longer. They go back to straight. When a synthetic hooks, it's done. Well, it's not done. I continue to paint with them, but a lot of people, right, you won't be able to fix the hook on a synthetic because plastic, it has a memory now, and you can heat it up or do all the wives' tale things that you hear out there, but it's never going to work. But I only paint with synthetics. I don't have a sable on my desk. And the reason for that is that snap and the fact that I paint with a little bit of a lighter touch. And the synthetic will hold almost like a pencil-like tip with a light touch, whereas the sable will flex a little bit more. So that's a preference thing. There's not anything good or bad about it. If you have a heavier hand, if when you paint you find yourself bending the brush more like this, then sable will probably work better for you, because sable is more flexible, meaning that it will hold a point better under pressure, right? A synthetic, this one is a small bundle, so let's get a bigger one. The smaller the brushes, the more they act exactly the same, so they're kind of not even an issue. But a bigger belly brush like this number 3 is a synthetic, has a good point. But as I start putting a lot of pressure on it, right, with my brush strokes, it'll start to square out the tip, right? The tip will start to lose, and it'll see how it's getting a little broad along the tip there. So that line won't hold its nice point, whereas a sable might keep its tip a little bit under pressure. That's really the only difference. The technology for synthetics nowadays will allow them to draw and release paint just as well as any sable, period. There'll be people that tell you that's not the case. They're just trying to sell you more sable. The reality is that I've spent the last 8 years finding better and better synthetics. We've changed our synthetics 3 times.
Yeah, I think so.
3 times? Yeah, 3 times for our base synthetic blend or filament. And each time it gets better and better. And so, yeah, I don't have a problem with telling people that it really is just a preference thing. There was a time where synthetics were what you bought when you wanted to do sloppy painting and not worry about destroying your brush. I have no problem being honest about that. That's just the case. Because synthetics were basically the only filaments available were the leftovers from things that you would use in knitting together camping gear. So it was not really made for brushes. Nowadays, the technology behind synthetic filament is tremendous. You have to think about all the things that they're trying to do for cosmetics, for fake eyebrows and eyelashes and things like that people have demanded be more and more like real hair. Well, all of that translates because they sell it into all sorts of other industries like ours.
It sounds like we put Game Delay to sleep today. So thank you for the relaxing stream to get my nap in.
Damn Game Delay.
Jeez, Game Delay.
That's rude. Very, very rude.
Yeah, the hook. You embrace the hook. If you get the hook, embrace it. Use it to your advantage.
Paint around corners.
You now have a cool little tool that'll help you get into those little nooks and crevices and super tight spots.
Paint around corners.
Synthetics are pretty good. The number 2 I have is starting to lose its tip shape.
There, I'm done, chat. Eyes.
It will.
I'm kidding.
Regular cleaning helps. It'll make them last longer, but like
100%.
with synthetics,
Still won't fix it.
well, you really would need to clean them after every time you paint as well. Like full cleaning.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're committed to that, get yourself some brush goop. 1 tin of it will last you for a really long time, even if you clean your brushes every day.
That's the greatest thing about our brush goop is it lasts forever.
It lasts a long time. You don't need much.
I was watching somebody the other day. I'm not going to say who it was. I can remember who it was, but I'm not going to say who it was. Streaming, and they got out some brush soap, and one of their viewers asked them why they didn't use ours. Mm-hmm. And they were very offhanded about how it doesn't matter what brush soap, they all work exactly like that. While they were using Masters, and they had the Masters brush soap, and they took the puck, opened it up, put the cap over the side, put the thing in front of them, and then went and reached and had to grab a thing of water. Mm-hmm. While they're saying this, right? What they're doing, they're saying, oh, they're all the same. They all work the same. They all the exact same thing, but they're having to load the Masters up with water because it turns into a toilet cake. Yep. And it's so hard you can't use it. Yep. So you have to flood it with water to get it to soften up a little bit. And I just laughed.
Then you need a conditioner afterwards. Yep.
I just thought that was super funny. Yeah. I was like, so about that.
That's okay. Hairs end up getting broken with synthetics. No, the synthetic is probably more durable against like breakage, but it's like Jason said, it's like a plastic or it's a synthetic material, so it bends and it stays that way, just remembers it.
Yeah, it gets what we call a memory. I definitely got the pupil placed wrong on this side. It was close, but not quite. This eye's good. This one I like. This one over here, not so much.
If your brush scoop melted, is it still good to use? It is.
Mhm.
Asking for a friend who bought it in the Arizona heat. And tell them not to leave it in their car. But yeah, it's still fine. It might look a little different, but it'll still work the same.
So the idea here, for those of you that are paying attention, is that I'm trying to get the color of the sclera on the model. Now, I should have done all this before I painted the flesh, because now I'm going to have to come back and paint all the flesh in again. But paint the sclera color just for location, and then shore it up by painting around it with the flesh tone, and that's how you size the eye. So you notice that I start with a much bigger splotch because I get all the paint where I need it to go, and then I come back in and size the eye to the face, right?
As in, if you're asking about brush scoop, yes, it has conditioning in it as well. So it cleans, conditions, and then you put some in, like you put some just a little bit on your fingers and pull your brush to a point, and then leave it in there until you're ready to paint next, and then rinse it out really well. Paint liquor, I feel like the friend is you. Are you the friend?
100%.
Did you leave it in your car?
100%. Asking for a friend. Age-old trick they play.
If my brain melts trying to paint, is it still good to use? Asking for a friend. It's mostly still good. It will likely have some defects, but
Yes. Nothing you
should
can't
be
work around.
okay.
You have 2, right?
From UPS, not your fault. So I'm just gonna throw it out there that we are in the same place, pretty much. Like, you live in our state, so we don't have to ship it to you in the summer. You could have come picked it up. Zazin said, okay, I gotta get some brush scoop. You're just now realizing this, Zazin? How long have you been here? It is something that is quite necessary.
Getting closer. Not going to fight it too much more. Paint Liquor's like, next time I will pick it up. Yeah, shipping anything melty in Phoenix in the summer, it's probably not going to turn out the way you want it to. This place will own you in the summer.
I may not clean my brushes often, but I use brush goop when I do. Thank you, Panic Bomb. That's a good choice. Law Dog Discord didn't give you an alert. Or, well, it did give you an alert, but you didn't hear the sound. So I thought there was no stream today. Well, we are here until, we're here until regular time, 4 o'clock today. We will be back Monday and Tuesday. And then we're shutting the stream down. And we'll be back at the beginning of January for, or with an all new studio.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Big things for the new year.
Kimberly said, I'm reasonably smart, but not so smart I've ever been accused of having 2 brains. Law Dog, yes, I love the brush goop. Not as much as I love mahogany, but close. That's okay. The brush goop will share that love with mahogany. Brush goop helps take the stains out of the teeth too. No, don't wash your mouth out with soap.
You're just trying to chat.
Don't do that.
Chat, you're doing this to yourself, right? You're getting Jen riled up. You know what happens when you get Jen riled up.
Toothpaste is more affordable for cleaning your teeth.
You guys got to deal with it.
Does it work as a body wash? I mean, it's soap, so if you wanted to, but again, very expensive for body wash. Not expensive for cleaning your brushes because they're tiny. Your body's bigger. But that's on you. Only you know your budget. Having a pool in Arizona has been a godsend in the summer. Would never do it again. Too much work. Derpstick said, how would you do a quick and dirty paint job for skulls and bones?
We got asked that just a second ago. And we just did a skull tutorial as a short that's on YouTube that Jordan did using bone and I think some dark brown green or green brown and some really cool color combos. You should go check that one out. I, for one, really enjoy doing skulls with a base coat of something in the burnt sienna, burnt orange range. I don't have skulls on her, but let me find something with a skull real quick. Let me paint this hair real quick.
Chuck, congratulations.
What's that?
Chuck survived the grocery store.
Was it in doubt?
Well, I mean, I don't enjoy the grocery store.
Neither do I. But I always know I'm going to survive.
And around the holidays, it's extra terrible.
That's true. I kind of always go in thinking I'll make it out alive, though.
I usually do.
I have faith.
Pools can get too hot to swim in Arizona. I mean, no, not really. They're not as refreshing for sure, but it's not like it's not boiling or anything. You can definitely still go in it. A Vector finished work today for a 2-week holiday. We are jealous around here. I mean, Jordan's not, because he's gone as well. Painting some towel along with the stream.
Awesome.
Happy times.
Love to hear it.
British Panda said, I step away for 3 minutes to put the gift size wrapping under the tree, and you start pestering Jen? How dare? Exactly.
Chat's fault.
You. Thank you for being on my side.
See what we have to deal with, chat? All right, skulls. Let's find a model. There's got to be a model with a skull on it around here. Jesus.
Zazen, you're real spicy today. I don't know about you.
What are we if we don't have skulls? Watch me not be able to find a skull anywhere to paint.
How much for a bathtub-sized puck of brush soap? I mean, it wouldn't be a puck if it were a bathtub size. When we lived in Arizona, my parents had a black van. It was an experience before remote starters were a thing. I've had mostly black cars.
There's literally a Games Workshop model that has no skulls.
What?
You're right. I'm like, the first thing I reach for is like, hey, it's Games Workshop. It'll have a skull. Nope.
Oh, Mr. Blue, you are brave going to the mall this close to Christmas.
That's just masochism.
I went on Saturday of last week, and it actually wasn't that bad. I found a spot right away. I'm like, that's a good sign. In and out.
That's
Nice.
literally just masochism. You must hate yourself. That skull's way too small to get the point across. Gotta be something here.
I don't know. I'm thinking PG-13 at least. 1,000. Pretty rough ones.
Do trolls have skulls? No, they just have like mushrooms, right? Oh, well, that's kind of a skull, right?
Game Delay said swimming pools are in the dark all night. Helps them cool off a little before the morning. Not in Arizona.
He's
More
got a
afraid
necklace
of your
of
wife
skulls.
than the mall. That's fair. Then good for you for getting that done today.
Right? And a skull up on top too. Let's paint the skull on the top of his head. Okay.
All right,
So-
here we go.
What's that?
I said, all right, here we go.
Here we go. Strap in, chat. I need burnt orange. Right. So burnt orange. Some dark umber, which I should have out here because I've been using it all day. So I'm gonna start with dark umber. Boom. And I'm basically going to use the burnt orange in place of what I would normally do with like a light umber. You may like this, you may not like this. I like the idea of the skulls to be a little bit warmer unless the model I'm painting already is like red armored or something like that. Right? So start with dark umber. That's our shadow. Not sure what's going on with this guy. He's got like barnacles or something trolly going on with his skull. I'll do the horns too, but horns will be a different color ultimately. I might not put the orange on them. Amazingly enough, this guy was based in dark purple. Who knew?
Derp6 said, yeah, Jordan painted the skull on the crone figure. I'm just wondering if a single coat of the satin bone paint would be enough for the tiny skulls you get on Space Marine trinkets or on shields.
Oh, well, I'll do this two ways. I'm going to do this where I'm blending some color together to give you an idea of a more advanced process, and then we'll just paint something small. Okay? So then I'm taking some of the burnt orange and mixing it with the dark umber. And this will be wet blending because we're going fast, so the base layer of paint won't have dried all the way, which is actually very helpful for this. But you could layer it if you want to as well. Maybe going too fast now. That has not been said very often when I'm painting. You're going too fast, Fuse. Slow down. And I'll just keep adding a little bit more orange as I go.
It's really close to the bottom of the screen, so it's not... There we go.
Yeah, I don't have him on a stand. I should hold it like this. Then I can paint where I need to paint. You can already see how the orange, the burnt orange and the brown give you a really neat, dirty coloring underneath. Again, just burnt orange, dark umber, bingo. Then we'll take bone, which I just had here a second ago. Bone.
Tax Frost said I just bought the base set and 2 expansion sets, and I feel I need to relearn painting completely.
Why's that? And that's awesome that you have the sets. Why do you feel like you have to relearn it completely?
Synthetic, we have concrete basing texture. Is that what you mean by how to do concrete?
So I'll mix the bone into the brown orange kind of color first. Gives me a kind of a fleshy tone. And we'll just, again, I paint dark to bright, so I'm going to hit the high spots first. It's bone, so I may take a little bit more of a choppy brush stroke so I get some texture built in there too. That's a technique and nuance thing. You may choose to do that or not.
Derpstick said I appreciate the advanced techniques, but sometimes I wonder if all that undercoating with different colors is really necessary for tiny details.
Depends. That's a personal choice, right? What do you want it to look like in the end? I will show you the tiny skull effect here because he's got some small ones here that we'll do a lot quicker. Okay, like on the necklace. But I'll show you how you can tie those in, kind of make them look the same, right? Because if you make a decision to, if you have one big skull on the model like this, and you want to focus on it not, being as quick.
Castilian Barterol, this isn't like his current project necessarily. He just kind of pulled it off the shelf to show how to paint the skull. But you might have an answer. What are the color plans for the barnacles?
Oh, I was never
Maybe
intending
not a
to
plan.
finish this model. This model is just a model for showing how to paint skin. We showed just a really quick workup for doing skin, kind of, fast, wet blended skin with a fairly dramatic lighting to it. And it was also a study in kind of that uncanny valley of doing, pinkish, Caucasian, almost, super pale, live in a cave skin on a troll that a lot of people would like to see it be, more blue or green or, something alien. Now we'll just take the bone by itself.
Back to Attacks Frost, who said need to relearn painting.
Pretty thin.
Said I painted with Duncan Rhodes and Citadel paints, and the Procro works really different. First model, I had texture because the drying time is higher and the application is much easier. It flows more paint from the brush.
Oh yeah.
But I don't have a feeling for that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's a process thing with our paints. That's really what I was going for. Is if you're having to relearn the wheel kind of a thing. And yes, I mean, our paints are different enough on purpose. They aren't made in the same factory as everybody else's. Like Duncan Rhodes and P3 and all that are in the same exact factory. So, it's ours are one of the only paints that are literally made differently. We make them like fine art paint. So the quality of pigment is much higher. The process by which we formulate our colors is much more indicative of how you want paint to be when you're not painting houses and you're painting artwork. And it does take a little bit of getting used to when you're used to other paints because it is formulated to work pretty much right out of the bottle. You don't have to thin it as much. So that can lead you astray, right? If you thin it down a whole lot, then you wind up with great results for glazing like I'm doing now. This is super, super thin. So it can be thinned, but you're going to get yourself to a very low opacity very quickly. The way we talk about it is that with Procro, you should only be thinning for opacity. So if you need something to be less opaque, then thin it down. Otherwise, unless you're airbrushing, you really don't have to thin our paint. A little bit of water on your brush and you're ready to go. I'm a lazy painter. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the palette. I just want to paint cool stuff. I want to be able to paint it to whatever level I want to. I want beginners to enjoy it as much as pros. And in order to do that, you have to start with the best quality pigment in the world. And so but it will feel a little bit different. Okay, so that's just glazing the bone over the top, and then we can come in with like an ivory or something. Let's grab what do I have here? Do I have a dark ivory? Olive flesh works great too. So we'll go with olive flesh, a little bit of yellow.
Okay, Spats, now you do you. Baldy wants to know if we have any plans to release a contrast paint in the future.
Thought about it. I don't have anything cooking right now that I can tell you about. We've thought about it. Like all of our products, we have a statement that we make that if I can't come up with a way to do it better for the consumer, we won't make it. All the things that we make are made to make the hobby easier, better, more valuable for you. So I won't just release a Me Too product like a lot of companies do. I really want it to be something that makes a difference. I don't typically paint that way. So a lot of that is me having to retrain myself to say, okay, how would I use a paint that works this way so that I can make it work for me and also be something that delivers what you look for in a contrast paint, which is, something that gives you a really neat, clean finish line that's achievable quickly.
Spatsnat, you just tell her that art takes time. Spatsnat said you're not supposed to paint houses with Procryl?
I mean,
my wife was wondering why it was taking so long.
We appreciate your dedication.
Igreen, is your wife Attacks Frost? Awesome. And she paints too. Well, she's going to be stocked up pretty soon.
So with the bright color, I'm really, because there's no real edges to edge highlight, I'm just kind of going in and making my own, just kind of creating some fast striations in the bone that make it like cracks and such.
Pro Synthetic X10 painting your house.
Oh my God. that makes me anxious just thinking about it. Like that's like some crazy internet troll contest. Who can get their house painted quicker? We picked this 2-story. But you have to be on a ladder too.
And then Synthetic is looking for a how-to for painting concrete structures and rubble. And I don't know.
There you go. Boom.
I think it was a request for a short. But I'm not sure if that is something that you could explain.
We could come up with something like that. We do a lot of that on like concrete bases and stuff. It's actually pretty easy. But
could you?
And there you go. You get some nice bone. The orange kind of warmth in the shadows helps a lot with keeping it from being just too neutral, right? So very quick. Now let's, on one of these small skulls, let's go in on like, well, they're all kind of at weird angles. Let's go in on this little guy right here, right? Let's just say you want to do the skulls around, your Space Marine's helmet, right? It isn't the main focus of the model. So let's grab some bone.
The skin on this guy is airbrushed, yeah?
No, this is all brush.
The whole...
I did airbrush blending at the very end with the highlights.
Okay.
But most of it's brush.
So Attack Frost said, I'm fascinated with the gradients. Did he wet blend or how did he get the results?
Some wet blending, yeah. Some fast wet blending at the beginning. Then we airbrushed a little bit on the highlights to get all of the rough brush strokes and stuff done, because I was showing off how you can use the airbrush as a final blending tool so that you can paint fast with the brush, get the colors on the model, right? And then use the airbrush to go in at the high spots and kind of, with that fuzzy out of focus look that an airbrush creates, make the blends and hide a lot of your brush strokes. You can see like the rough brush strokes of the blending. You see that kind of choppiness underneath there. But from the money shot area, the airbrush makes it look a lot smoother blended, but still keeps a texture to it like a skin would have, is the goal. Okay. I'm going to take the dark umber, right? It's still going to be 2-color, but let's just really sloppy do a couple of these skulls.
And yeah, Ghost Hunter makes a good point about transparency mixed with different mediums could be a good, that's similar to a contrast or a...
Well, our current way of doing contrast style painting is with our glazed wash medium and our transparent paints. Yeah. It creates a better version of contrast paint, but it requires you to work at it. And a lot of people are just wanting something right out of the bottle. So we understand that.
Banjo, I saw that bone painted satin. What's the thought process behind going with a more satin finish? That's one of our signature colors. Yeah. The artist just preferred that finish for that particular color. It's Matt or Ben.
Matt.
Remember, it's either Matt says
It's Matt.
or Ben comments. They each, those are the only two. Well, no, that's not true because satin black is also satin. So our signature sets are the only sets that we have that have potentially some satin or gloss paint. The majority of our paints are very matte. I bought the 00. What would the X10 be used for? Not much. It's really small, so you can't paint a whole lot with it.
Eyes.
But a lot of people will use it for eyes. You really can't do a whole lot with it because it's so tiny that it won't hold a lot of paint. So it really is going to be for just the tiniest details.
Believe it or not, it stipples really well. So if you're doing stipple blending, it's a great brush.
It is a synthetic brush though, so if you're also wanting to use it for something pointy, you can get two.
Yeah, if you're planning on stippling with it, it won't last long.
Baldy said, I'm newer to Twitch. Do you have any skin painting videos with smaller surfaces with brushwork that I can go back and watch? We have tons and tons of stuff on our YouTube. Not only all of our past streams, so every live stream we do is, we're on YouTube right now as well, and the VODs stay there. So there's that wealth of information. All of our shorts, so the short form, like a minute or less, I think, or a minute and a half or less. Those are all in there as well, in their own tab. Lots and lots of options for you.
This is just bone over dark umber. No mixing, no blending, no nothing. Just putting bone on there. My brush has a little bit of dampness on it so that the bone is a little translucent, but as you can see, it's getting good coverage, right? So that's dark umber with bone over it. I mean, if you were taking your time and leaving the dark areas in between the teeth and stuff, then that works great. And you can just paint bone like that. Right? You can put one color over another color and be just fine. What I prefer to do is then take some, like the olive flesh that we're using as a highlight. So you've got your base coat, your mid-tone of bone, and then your highlight of olive flesh. And here I'll just catch like the top of the nose, top of the cheekbone, and eye socket, eyebrow area, and then just kind of stipple a little bit of brightness. Stippling is just making lots of little dots. On spheres, it's a great way to highlight. Let's do that up at the top of the sphere of the skull, so I'll give it a little bit more brightness there because we'll put a wash on it, right? So then we'll come and do the same thing. I'll just stipple some brightness here. If you can learn to kind of just stipple your colors, just do a lot of dots very tight where you want it the brightest, and then just kind of spread them out as you go down. You'll be able to do Space Marine shoulders, tops of heads, skulls, any spheroid a lot easier. We'll just kind of do that.
Baldy, it will be our transparent paints and our glaze and wash medium.
Yeah, we have a whole video on YouTube that shows me painting a model with various paints in the glaze wash medium to do various stuff like this guy. I think this might be the guy that was in the model. I show you how to, because this is just zenithal primed with black and white, and then I do the whole fur with our glaze wash medium and like 2 colors, right? And then I do the skin the same way, just to show you how to do some funky blending with it and get stuff done super quick. We've painted models live on stream in like an hour using just the transparents and the glaze wash, right? Like this guy. Jen painted this one in like an hour, maybe. And that's just zenithal primed with our transparents and glaze and wash medium. So it can be very bright, vibrant. You can, use it for super bright colored stuff. Same with this guy. Everything on this guy was painted with our normal line of paints and glaze and wash medium. So even the non-metallic metal was just the zenithal prime and then some edge highlighting. So it shows you can do all sorts of really cool stuff with our paints, just thinned down with a glaze and wash medium over the top of a black and white prime job. That's 100% of what this guy is. All the skin, There's only one color of green on the skin. It's just the black and white prime job underneath made the greens turn the color just the way you would expect from, any of the contrasty stuff, but it's super simple. And you can do all that. Our glaze wash medium is made to turn all of our paints into a speed paint if that's what you like to do.
Tax Frost, painting is, and the choice of paint that an artist will use is a very personal thing. So we certainly can't answer why someone would choose a different type of paint, but there are some good points that people make that, availability, whatever is accessible to them easily is appealing to people. I think it was Mo. Yeah, Mo said that we're still pretty new in comparison to some of the known paints. We've only been making pro acrylic since 2018. So while we've expanded a lot and grown the line, there's still a lot of people who've never even heard of us. Fewer and fewer every day, but there are still people who just don't know.
So you can see on the skulls how, you can get with just the dark umber and the bone over the top and then a little bit of highlight with something like ivory. I used olive flesh. You can get very close to the same effect as what we did up here. You're just going to miss the nuance of the orangey layering underneath that we did that is going to give it more depth here. You have a lot of contrast here because we went from a very dark base to a very bright overlay. So you have a lot of contrast, right, that we have to build up differently here. This is more natural. So it depends on how you like to paint. And then I'm just going to finish this off, show you the difference between them if you don't use a wash. And then once you come in and use a wash on the skull is the way that I would do these small skulls if I were painting on a model that I was doing.
Tomato got our email about our big things coming in 2025.
Yeah.
Nope, we're not going to tell you what it is.
Got to read your emails.
Well, no, it's something huge. At Adepticon 2025.
Well, Wad, you've seen it. I kind of glom that on. I'm going to use my cleaned off brush to soak some of that wash away. There you go. So we can put the wash over it and then we'll pull this back out. But when the wash dries, that can give you a layer of color. You could use a flesh wash over the top of this and that would add a little bit of the orangey feel back in that I like to have, but it would tint the whole thing that way. So you just got to be careful with how you choose to do that. That's a great way to just do fast skulls. A dark brown, bone, and then a bright ivory or something like that to do the final highlight, and then a wash over the top. I prefer a brown wash. You can do black as well, just your, color to taste. That's two really easy ways to do it.
Metallics? No.
And then we've shown before, we have these guys that we did, that this was black-brown, right? And then dry brushed with, I think on these, I used dark ivory. So black brown and then dry brush dark ivory and then ivory and then wash it with brown and then flesh wash. So the flesh wash gives it a little bit of reddish and the brown gives it the shading and then dry brush it again with the ivory. And so this is super fast. If you're doing like skeletons and you want to do whole bodies in bone, I love this. It's just too easy. And you can get a lot done. Like we painted, a handful of these dudes, a whole squad of the little bone dudes for Aussie Art Bone Reapers in, an hour. So.
Yeah, Panic Bomb. I felt the same way reading it. I'm like, oh, wow. We had something almost every month. It's been a busy year.
Yes. Most definitely it has.
Tech Elf, did you make it? Are you in Kansas now?
It's not that fast of a trip.
So thanks for keeping me entertained while driving. I assume that means that he's there. No longer driving. It is 3:53.
What?
And Tech Elf is in Kansas.
What?
So...
Where did you leave South Dakota? Like right on the border? That's crazy. That seems way too fast.
Attacks Frost. Yes, that's very late. Get some rest. Enjoy your weekend. We'll we'll see you next time. We're here Monday through Friday at this time, 2 to 4. We're almost done. We got about 6 minutes left today.
I have all these nice bone colors out here, so I think we can paint her scroll. I have so many choices here. I'll just have to mix them up as I go.
Teleportation drones? What?
I like painting scrolls left to right because it kind of, if you use a very choppy brushstroke, it can kind of build in the text lines for you. Like the background for writing gets baked into your brushstroke. You can imagine like the shading or whatever that would happen between the lines of text, whether they're painted, scrawled, inked, typed, lexicanimed or whatever in 40K, doesn't matter. Just use a really heavy, choppy brushstroke going from left to right.
Brutal Burrito, we don't take all our streaming stuff to shows.
No. It's only been recently that they could provide any quality of internet service that would even remotely allow that. And it's, we've been doing this for way too long. So our studio's all baked in. Traveling with this setup would be a pain.
Portable setup. Colonel, you heading out? Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Colonel, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Enjoy your weekend. And yeah, we'll be here Monday. Castilian Vartero, so do you have any information on the process for testing paints in terms of mixing pigments and mediums to make your own paints?
Well, how do you mean? I mean, that's what we do. How do you mean? Are you asking how we do it? The hardest part is that when making liquid acrylics, you can't just start with a dry pigment. You have to start with an aqueous suspension, right? Something that is waterborne, that your acrylic works in. And so that's, we call it a medium or a base or a, whatever you want to call it, carrier. And so getting suspensions for your pigment and then taking those suspensions and mixing them is the same as mixing the raw pigment. We do it without the matting agent or any of the other inclusions that you would normally want in the finished product to make the color. And then we start matting the color down again, right? So then we'll make it. But that's really the formula of ProAcryl, is the matte and the way it works. So we don't have to mess around too much once we have a color dialed in. We don't do digital color creation. So we don't take hex codes or Pantone codes and do it like that, like most companies do. We start with raw base pigment. So if you want to make a green, I'll start with a green pigment, and then I'll add in other pigments until I get the green the way I want to. Maybe a yellow if I want it to be a yellow or green, maybe a blue, browns, whatever. Everything's on the table. And then you just make your color, and you have to do that by weight. How much pigment do you put in it by weight? Why, you plan on competing with us? But yeah, that's how we make ProAcryl. I actually have a bench right outside the studio here where I do all of our paint mixing. And it has tons of individual suspensions that I can go and use. A bunch of our paints are single pigment, so I'll even use just some of our paints to mix with. Our transparents are all single pigment, so we keep those in stock, obviously, and I'll just go grab transparent pigments if I need them, or whatever we're blending with. The hardest part is weighing it all out, making sure your pigment ratios are repeatable. So I typically wind up weighing a suspension once I have the color done. I'll weigh it, I don't know, I want to say like 3 or 4 times. Sometimes I can nail it in 2 and feel confident that it's repeatable. sometimes I get carried away and I'm enjoying the color so much that I forget to weigh it, and then I have an amazing color that I don't know how to make again. so there's a lot of frustration in it. It's very mad scientist for me. It's what makes it fun. It's one of the neatest things I get to do. Again, just using big chunky brush strokes, so I'm getting the texture baked. There's no texture on this scroll, so I got to fake it. Right? It's just a flat piece of resin, the way it's printed. So. Yeah, we do it old school. So it literally is just playing with pigment. I can't go to a machine and say, scan this color and do it. You know, we have color scanners, so we can scan a color and get the hex code once I've created the paint. We scan the color so that we can make the label. So we do it reverse. We digitize the color that we make, and it's never spot on because we do it by hand. So there may not be a perfect hex that's recreatable in like RGB or CMYK for print or whatever. That's why labels are hard to make, because we don't start with the hex code. So our paint's a little bit, I don't know. I just kind of make it until it looks good on the model. I have a model that I keep with me, and I paint on the model, and then I keep painting it and see how I like it. And once it's what I want, I go, done, and we make that color. It's fun. But it makes it really tough because I don't match it against the other company's paints or anything. I literally sit there and say, I kind of want a greenish, brownish green, brownish green, and I'll just play with it until it's done. Mr. Blue, we don't keep a list of what all of the transparents other than brown. Transparent brown has a little bit of yellow in it, but not much. So it still relates. All of our colors mix like true artist paints. The one thing you have to detach your brain from is the standard hobby paint. A lot of them don't mix really well as to make other colors. They start to gray out and get less vibrant because of the way they mix them, like house paints. They use a lot more pigment as a base in them. And so they're not meant, I won't say they're not meant to be mixed. They mix well, but they don't mix like art paints. So it's scary when you have more pigments. And a lot of people say, I want a single pigment paint. But what they don't understand is that single pigment paints are typically translucent or semi-opaque at best. The only ones that are really have true opacity are things like titanium white, carbon black, Mars black. Even Mars black's a little bit more transparent. So you wind up adding more transparency into a lot of the colors as single pigments. That's just the nature of the beast. And so you wind up adding opacifiers, other colors, a little bit of titanium white and black being the big ones. But you can do multiple pigments in a hue range, like for blues, and still get a fantastic blue that stays blue, mixes like blue. It gives you everything you expect. So don't worry so much about what's single pigment and what's not. Be worried that you're dealing with fine art pigmentation in any hues, any multi-pigment hues, and you'll be fine. But all of our transparents, other than the brown, titanium white, coal black, pyro red, orange, I have to run through them all. Dark magenta. I have like all of them in front of me. I'm staring off into the near distance. The burnt, no. The best thing about Monument Hobbies is they don't do marketing stunt out of how to make a gas chamber diorama. Oh, geez. Source. But transparent brown is great. Yeah, low viscosity single pigment paints is really tough to do. We love the transparents. One of the most amazing and versatile things in our entire lineup. We always say that. They really are. Because the vibrancy you're going to get out of a single pigment paint is bar none the best. Then you can blend them into other paints to make them more vibrant. It's great. So Wizard's butt is just the color of my butt? Oof. We're not going to make that paint. If I've missed questions, type them in. With Jen not here, it's a little rougher on me. Castillan Varterol, do you have any information? Oh, that's the process on the testing paints. You've been trying to find a resource online like a book or a class, but nothing. No, really, there's not a lot. It's a very artisanal kind of a world, and that's why there's most of the companies that make paint make coatings. The world of paint has moved into what we call coatings manufacturing. It's not too dissimilar, but you think about, I don't know where you live in the world, but here we have Home Depot, and you go order house paint, and what it has is it has a multi-pigment machine that has a bunch of raw pigment suspensions, and it dumps those into a base, and that base is either white or sometimes it can be clear or darker. You have a light base and a dark base. They have matte and eggshell and gloss and all that stuff, and it's just, it's neutral colors that they put under there. They dump they type the color in. The hex code goes into the computer. The computer knows all of the basic pigments, but every color is made from those same pigments. And so you have a limited pigment range that makes every color. It makes every color perfectly because that's how it works. You can mix those colors and get every color. Those colors are not meant to be mixed with other colors necessarily because of the way that pigmentation is done. Some, let's think, some greens are not made from a green base. They're made from blues and yellows put together. Like if you were CMYK mixing, that's not the best way to make green, because now the color you've made is not really green, it's blue and yellow. And so if I mix something that has a higher tendency of blue into it, I'm going to skew blue really quickly and lose my green. Whereas if I start with a green pigment, a true green pigment that isn't yellow and blue, and mix it into blue, it won't skew blue. It'll be blue and green. You'll get a blue-green. And so that's why some paints play really weird when you start mixing them. All of our paints are made from their base components. So when you start mixing them, you know that if you mix a yellow into something, you get yellow, and whatever the other color is. Same with all of them. So they won't gray out on you. They give you more of what you intend as long as you understand how color mixes. So that's the biggest thing. Yeah, Big Bobzilla, it's very scientific. Yep, that's the green I want. When Miniac came here, I think he was a little blown away because he sat down and I was like, "You want to make a color?" I pick a color, and I go, "Here's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna make it like this." And he goes, "Oh, I would have thought it would have been like blue and yellow." He picked a green, and he's like, "I would have thought we would have done a blue and a yellow and all that stuff." I'm like, nope, nope. We start with green because that way it's always green. Turns out that's very important when painting. Baldy's asked, what creator paint set has been my favorite to make? You have Ninjon and Vince's. Those were both fantastic. All of them have been really neat. Vince and John's were the only two. Is this true? Let me think about this before I say it out loud. They, being in the States, they're the only ones other than Adepticon that are in the States, right? Louise, Matt, Ben, everybody else is European and English, and other than Adepticon. And so with Vince and John, we just started talking naturally, and so they mixed up some colors that they liked and gave me some other kind of close proximities, and mixed up some paint and sent it to me and stuff. And that was kind of how we learned the process. Everybody else sent me drawdowns. So they just sent me dry paint swatches. And so the dry paint swatches were a lot of fun because that's harder to match, because when a paint dries, that's not how it is when it's wet. And so when I have a wet paint and I can do the wet swipe and then compare my wet swipe, there's a lot to learn in that. And so it makes the process somewhat easier. But when you get it sent a dry color, that's a lot of fun, but it's also very frustrating because I have to continue make the paint and then paint the paint and wait for it to dry and see, because I'll paint it, I'll be like, I nailed it, and then it'll dry and I'll be like, I didn't nail it, so I have to continually go back and forth. Jen, I know when I was sitting up here doing Flame On set, right? I don't know if you remember, but there were days where I was up here doing Flame On set like on a weekend and 8 hours, and I was working on one color for 8 hours and didn't finish it. Because it was the brown green, right? And it was so difficult. It was so close every single time, but when it would dry, it would be different than what he wanted. And so that one took a long time. So fun in a masochistic way are those colors, because when you beat them, it feels like beating the final boss. And then the fun ones just for the flair of color would be Louise's, because Louise's, as I made it, it just made me smile. It was just bright and vibrant like Louise is. So it was the one that really nailed it. Sorry, babe, I'm a little behind here, so I'm going to steal this from you. I just love that almost all of your paints are the same viscosity, except for a few special ones that alone has increased my ability to paint well. Route, yeah, you know, you really nail it, and I'm glad you see that because we wanted the paint to be as consistent from color to color as possible. Now, some pigments make that less able to be so, but they're still within a nice range. And even in manufacturing, we have a range of viscosity and a range of opacity and a range of matte that a particular color can be and still be passed. Because it's not machine run. It's all hand done. It's all human error. There's a lot of stuff to it. But we have, I think, the most definitive brand on the planet with regards to when you buy a color and fall in love with it, the next time you order that color, it will be the same color, bar none. Because from start to finish, there are people involved mixing your color and testing your color that are comparing it to that same color from the ages. So unlike other brands, you buy a color and then the next time you buy it, you're like, this isn't the color I wanted, you know, but they changed pigments on you or they started mixing it different or they changed providers who make their paint and all that. Nah, we wanted it to be really easy to paint. Have fun on your model and stop worrying about your paint. Source, I know. I hate bringing that back up though. Yeah, Source broke out the big stick on that one. Well, Route asks, what's the new studio going to look like? Well, you'll just have to come and see.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome. What color do you want to make? Yellow. Okay, let's start with pink. Paint Liquor, have a good one. Fooker. The cautious name I say in chat. I always want to yell Fooker's name out, but I got to make sure I make my mouth movement before I start saying the word. So I'm always like, Fooker. Didn't get a whole lot done today on the model, but we got a lot of other things done. You guys have had a bunch of amazing questions today, so we were able to hopefully help a lot of people figure out how to paint different things better. A lot of great Q&A sessions today, so thank you so much for all of that, and thank you for joining us, guys and gals. As always, we love having everybody here. If you're new around here, hit that follow button so you can get the updates. If you're over on YouTube, hit the subscribe and the bell so you can get alerted when we go live. We do this Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here in Phoenix, Arizona. So we'd love to see you back as often as many times as you can. Be great. Our stream schedule coming up for the end of the year is a little bit wonky. Well, not really wonky, just short. We only have 2 more streams. Yep. Monday, Tuesday, right?
Monday and Tuesday.
Tuesday is Christmas Eve. So we will be streaming Monday and Tuesday on Christmas Eve, same times as always. And then we're done for the year. Because after Christmas Eve stream, we're turning it all off, unplugging everything for the first time in years.
Long time.
And Christopher is going to start building the new stream layout. He's already got it, I think, figured out in his own mad scientist way. And we're going to have a lot of fun with that, building it back up. And then when you see us again on the 3rd, is it the 3rd is the first day back?
I don't know.
I feel like it's the 3rd of January is the first day back. When we get back on the 3rd of January, you'll see the new stuff. So I'm excited. It'll be me and Jen, and then Jordan will be back on the 6th. So just 2 more streams before we send you off into the new year. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a lot of fun. What's that?
The 3rd is a Friday.
A Friday. Yeah, so maybe we'll do the Friday.
Is a Monday.
We might do a test run on the Friday and then be ready to do the real shebang on the Monday. That could be fun. We'll see. But as always, guys and gals, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're not able to catch us back on Monday or Tuesday of next week, we wish you the most amazing of holidays and end of year and beginning of the new year. We'll catch you then. For those of you that we get to see, you got to hang out with us more. You got to put up with us more.
Yeah, well, you'll have us in Discord. We just won't be streaming. We'll still be around.
Check out all the links that Jen put in chat and stick around. We're going to find somebody to raid. You got anybody picked out? Who's streaming?
Kenny today.
Kenny's today.
Yeah,
so we're going to raid Kenny, show some love in Kenny's stream over at Next Level Painting.
Year as well.
He'll keep teaching. She's made it. Oh, it is. It's his year ender. No.
It
is. It's Friday. Yep. It's Kenny's year ender. So wish him a happy new year as well, because I think he's done for the year as well.
Yep.
So it's that time where content may get small, but we are not forgetting you. So we love your faces. Go make sure to join the Discord. Check out our store online and our FLGS partners if you want to buy yourself some Pro Acryl or any of the amazing brushes we've shown you today. And have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Bye, everyone.
Adios.